Death is like the wind, always by my side.
What is up, guys? In today's video, we are going over 13.11 build path slash 13.12 for Yone. So I wanted to make another follow-up video for this. Obviously, we did it in the beginning of 13.10, and a lot has changed. So went from 5 different potential build paths. Obviously, I didn't know if all those were going to be viable because I made that video before the patch went out. Didn't really have any data. And now we're down to basically 2 after next patch lands. So first, before I talk about all this, I just want to talk about Gale Force BT. So right now, Gale Force BT, as we know, like me, Dzukill, a lot of Yones, this is basically their go-to, especially mid-Yone. So I think Gale Force BT isn't always the correct play. I think it's really good into range, obviously, but if you're against melee champs, usually Bork, but again, I'll get to this. But the thing I want to say first is that next patch, if you guys saw the patch notes, Gale Force is getting completely gutted for our champions. It's scaling off of AD instead of crit chance. And who does that hurt the most out of all champs in the game? The double crit chance users, Yasuo and Yone. So, or Yone. It's so hard to call him Yone. Whatever. So yeah, I think next patch Gale Force is kind of dead on our champions. I could be wrong. Maybe the dash is just that OP in some scenarios that we still need it. But honestly, I think against range lanes, after Gale Force gets that hard gutted, probably go to something else, which is why I made this PD Stormrazor BT. So basically, it's trying to do the same job as Gale Force, which is getting onto those range people, which obviously PD and Stormrazor helps us a lot with, right? Gives the extra movement speed. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, because PD is getting buffed next patch to the attack speed. So Stormrazor is going to be a lot more burst. PD is going to be a lot more consistent damage, because just more attack speed, right? So again, in my opinion, Stormrazor is probably going to be a little bit better for that bursty assassin playstyle that Yone likes. If anything, PD might be just better on Yasuo. Yeah, we will have to see. So this is going to be the go-to, in my opinion, against range lanes. Or if you don't like this, if this ends up being not very good either, this is what I've been going almost every game. I just got Grandmaster on my first time top lane account with a 70% win rate, and my most played build right now is basically, I know this looks like a very clustery, but all you need to know is that your first item is Bork. I think Bork is insanely strong, and I've seen other Yone players just not go this for some reason top lane. I think Bork is insanely strong. Obviously mid lane, not as much. If you're against those like ranged mages, you're gonna want that Gale Force. But Bork into those like fighters, into those tanks like Scion, Singed, those fighters like Jax, Renekton, it just feels way better than Gale Force, you know? But the question is, what do you go after Bork? That's the fun part about this build too. There are so many options, and honestly, I kind of just change with the build, whatever my mood is, whatever I'm feeling. Although my most played is definitely Bork into Bloodthirster second into Jaxo. It's a very strong build, a lot of lifesteal. You get that crit chance, you get that tankiness, and you end the build with either like a shield bow for that 100% crit. So that's what I like, but a lot of people do not like the lack of damage. So you could also go Iceborne. You can go Bork, BT Iceborne, which also feels very, very good, and you end it with like a shield bow again. That 100% crits, because at least you get that Sheen proc to do a little bit more damage than Jaxo and still get that tankiness. But obviously it's armor only, so only do that against heavier AD teams. Besides the tank mythics, you could just go Bork into Gale Force. It's perfectly fine. So if you want that like super gap close, like let's say you're against like one single tank, but then the rest of them are kite heavy. So let's say you're against a Poppy Top. Obviously, if we go Gale Force into Poppy Top, it's going to be very miserable, the laning phase, right? We can all agree on that. So it's like you start off with that Bork, but then they have like Kindred Jungle with a Lucian Melio bot. It's like, what do we need to gap close onto those champions? Gale Force. So it's like Bork into Gale Force is perfectly fine. But basically, what you need to know is that when you're going Bork first, you're going to be missing something. It's not going to be like that shield bow IE where you just have everything. You got that tankiness, you got the damage, lifesteal, everything, those 2 items. So you're going to be missing something. So if you're going like Bork, BT, Iceborne, or Jaxo, you're going to be like a little less on the damage side, and you're not going to have the 100% crit. Whereas if you're going Bork, Gale Force, you're going to be on the very squishy side, but then you can like get third item, maybe Sterix. But then again, you don't have 100% crit, so it feels a little bad. But yeah, so you can basically just go whatever you think is more important. So if you think in that game you're tanky enough, just go Bork. Again, like let's use our example of we're against that Poppy, and then we're against Lucian, Melio, and Kindred. So okay, we go Bork, Gale Force, and then it's up to you. Do you think you need tankiness that game, or you're just so ahead you want more damage? Because if you want more damage, you can just go like, get that shield bow for 100% crit, and still get that tankiness, you know? Wouldn't be too bad. I've also experimented with Bork into IE. Don't know if this one's very good, but for those who love IE and want an excuse to go IE, it's not terrible. I think it's fine, especially if you're snowballing, which is a lot of damage. But again, it's all damage, not much mobility, and not too much lifesteal. Another thing is Bork into Hullbreaker. I've actually done this a couple times, especially into those super hard lanes. Because Hullbreaker is very strong at the moment. So think like if you're against a Jax, and you don't want that Bork Bloodthirster, and it's even, right? Getting that Bork Hullbreaker is going to help you a lot in the split push with him. So you want that splitting style, Bork Hullbreaker, and you go from there. Maybe get a BT, work on that crit, and all that. Also, I've done a build that was no crit Yone, which didn't feel too bad if your tank or if your team needs that like front line. It's going to be a less carry potential build, so I wouldn't really do this in lower elos unless you just want to test it out. But it was Blade of the Rune King into Iceborne into Wit's End. You get that a lot of attack speed, no crit. You get a lot of MR, attack speed, health, armor, slowing. Felt pretty good when I did it, but again, not the best 1v9 build. And the last thing I want to talk about with this build is you can go Bork into Triforce. Personally, I haven't tried this, but Triforce is super overtuned, and we see a lot of champions doing it, like almost every AD carry. Kindred's doing it, Graves even. So I don't think it would be awful, right? So again, the most important thing that you need to follow with this build is Bork. Everything else is just up to you. Your playstyle, what feels good in the game. Do you need to be tankier? Do you need that mobility? So yeah, a lot of people go to item builds or item guides like this one, and they're just like, just tell me what objectively is the best. Which, that used to be correct, right? Shieldbow IE was just the best. Like, almost, always, right? But now it's not like that, so we just have choices. So, I'm here to just explain the choices like I just did. All that's important in this build is start Bork, okay? And the rest is up to you. Besides that, obviously, like, those are the cores of the build. Then these items, you could always go pretty self-explanatory. If you didn't want that shield bow, and you're already 100% crit, then Sterix is just going to be better. Death Stance, very solid 4th item, like always. Can't go wrong with it. If you need that QSS, you're against a Malzahar, you're against a Skarner, you're against a Rammus maybe. Get that QSS, and remember, always go Silvermare Dawn, unless you still aren't at 100% crits, then go Scimitar. Visage, if you want super amounts of lifesteal and shielding, and you have an Ivern, you really just want that like pure shield healing style. And then Maul is going to be pretty rare, because usually Wit's End is just better. If you want that Lifeline passive, they're all AP. It's going to be really rare. I almost never do this. Yeah. Cleaver, I can get rid of this actually. That was typo. Do not go Cleaver. You do a lot of magic damage. But, oh, and last thing, Hullbreaker, make sure only do that when you are top lane. Do not do it if you're mid lane, because obviously the whole point of the item is it's very super amped up when by yourself. And if you're mid lane, you're never going to be by yourself. So yeah, hope this helped you guys a little bit. Oh, also, we could add one more item just for fun. Duskblade. Duskblade is a very fun item. Personally, I think I've only done this. No, I haven't done this at all. But I could see the potential maybe, because it's just so overtuned right now. We see every assassin going it, so maybe you can go like Bork, Bloodthirster, Duskblade. It sounds kind of troll, but maybe experiment with it. In my opinion, it's kind of bad, just because usually when you E third Q and then kill someone, you just go back to your E. So I think this is more Yasuo, if anything. I think it's kind of trolling both, but I don't know. Try it out. Maybe just ult into 4 people, kill one, you go invincible, and yeah, maybe something happens. But yeah, hope this helped you guys a little bit with the new build pass, because I get this question a lot in my Twitch chat. And so yeah, I just wanted to make a follow-up video to it, because the other one is a little outdated since 2 whole patches have been either released or previewed. Oh, and last thing I want to talk about, do not go Static Shiv. Please Do not go Shiv. That item is terrible. They're buffing next patch again. It will never be good. Okay? It will never be good. And if it is good, that just means they need to buff other items because it is just not a good item. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if they change items once again, which they probably will, maybe another 2 patches, we will come out with another one of these videos. So yeah, hope this answers some questions. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.